Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Purposeful Conversations with me, Emee, here in the PAMI Code Facebook group. And today we have a very special guest who's going to talk with us today about mindset, innovation, and creative thinking. I know that we have a lot of leaders in our community, and so many of us are entrepreneurs. We try to be creative and we try to be innovative in our own respective fields. But I think sometimes the mindset creeps in. Sometimes we would think, oh, I'm not sure if that's a good idea. I'm not sure if that's good enough. So I think a little boost from our guest today will be very helpful. So without further ado, let's all welcome entrepreneur and success coach, Cara Macklin. Hi, Cara.
Hi, Emma.
Hi. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. I have to say, the members in our community are very much into self-development and professional development, and they are here to learn about mindset. And we talk a lot about mindset here, but I think the mindset is still something that's holding back a lot of our members here. And it's something that we need to improve a little bit more. So before we get into that, do tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do and how did you end up doing what you're doing now?
Okay, so firstly, thank you so much for having me. My background is I grew up in a family business in Northern Ireland. Someone said to me, my education in entrepreneurship started at 5 around a kitchen table.
That's amazing.
Yeah, my family have a healthcare and hospitality business. So I was in London for a year working in Marks and Spencer's food trend studio. So that was the start of my journey of innovation. And I came back to the family business and I worked there for 15 years. So everything from, I opened 3 new businesses. We scaled that business to over 600 employees. And, all of the success that I had was with the team around me firstly, but actually how to do things differently, how to think differently, and very much developing a very different mindset. And in 2018 then I opened or created Ireland's first lifestyle care home. So that was, we completely disrupted the healthcare industry, and we opened the home. So if I give you an example, in it we had a cafe, a cinema, a pub, a hairdresser, a bar,
Wow.
and a spa for old people.
That's
And that was,
amazing. So it actually is quite innovative. It's moving away from the traditional notion of a care home, but it's quite lively
very
and
much,
refreshing actually.
very
Oh, I'd
much.
love to I'd
Yeah.
love to check that out and see what you've got there. All
Yeah.
right, so
So
you
the
opened that in 2018?
2018, and at the same time I was training to be a business coach as well. And I've always, I suppose, my what I enjoy doing and is that innovation and thinking differently and how to do things differently and how you bring people along with you. And so I decided when I opened that and it was very successful that I left the family business completely, and I now run my own business, Cara, which is, I'm a visionary success coach and I'm an entrepreneur as well. So I help other entrepreneurs who, COVID has shown us that there is no rule book
Mm,
anymore.
yeah.
People need to do things very differently. I've been used to that my whole life, actually.
Thinking
Um,
outside the box, really. When something like this happens, you actually need to step up and find a way to pivot or find something else to do it creatively.
yes, and people think, and we'll probably get into this in the conversation, there's people who are creative and there's people who aren't. Everyone is creative. So if you think of all of us when we were children, we had great imaginations. And then we go through life and go through school and go into maybe a corporate world or systems, and that imagination is lost and
Yeah.
dampens. And actually, what we need in business and entrepreneurs now more than ever is imagination and creative thinking, because the old ways of doing things aren't going to work. And that's it ties in with your mindset. Imagination is, you keep developing it, and when something, it's that ability when something goes wrong or you have to pivot, it's a muscle that you've strengthened your whole life. And that's where you're going to find now some leaders are really going to struggle
Mm.
because they haven't developed it and they don't know what to do. And other people, so I teach people how I did it and what I've achieved.
I love it. And I mean, you are genuine. There are so many business coaches out there who actually don't have a business. They just talk about mindset and talk about how to shift your mindset without really having something to show for it. Whereas in your case, you actually do have a track record. And the thing that struck me most with me being a psychologist, picking up from what you've just said, this thing around the traditional education system and the path that we take in life, um, and how we've been programmed, if you like, in society. It sort of takes away the imagination. And for me, I have a 5-year-old son right now, and I'm watching him, play with his toys. He would rearrange the living room sometimes, and he would say the floor is lava, and he'll be
Mm-hmm.
jumping around the sofas. And it's just really fascinating to watch what children could see that is
Mm-hmm.
not there, and it is so creative. And for some reason, education, I don't know, just takes it away, the creativity and the fun. But I hope that there will come a time when this that there will be creative ways in the educational sector to actually
Mm-hmm.
reinforce this. I really don't know how that's gonna work, but it's certainly something that is needed in the entrepreneurial space. And my feeling is that a lot of entrepreneurs are quite creative. They have to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on this?
Um, yes, I mean, entrepreneurs, we don't fit into the corporate world. That's why. Um, one of the biggest challenges I think we do have, though, is we don't have the ability to bring other people along with that. And I
Mm,
see a lot of entrepreneurs who can't get the best ideas out of their team. And they think, and I'm not saying they don't have great ideas because they obviously do, but their people have great ideas. I mean, I created that concept with a team internally. We didn't bring in any consultants, any experts. I knew all the best ideas were inside our organization, but that is a skill and a technique to get the
mm,
ideas out of people in the right way, and have people, because if you think people have been through school and been through work life and their imagination has probably been dumbed down. So to reignite that again takes practice and a different technique. And I mean, it's interesting you talked about psychology earlier. Like I was going to do psychology at school and I did business studies, but that is what I bring, I suppose, which is very unique. It's like I bring the business acumen and the mindset and the
mm,
psychology part because I think the two, you need both. I say to people, it's like riding a bike. I can teach you how to ride the bike, which is obviously the business bit. But if you don't
mm.
believe you can ride it, you're going to fall off. Or I can give,
Absolutely.
if you have the belief that you can ride the bike, but you don't actually know how to start, um, it's going to be a lot more difficult. So that's where I would combine the two things
That's
together.
where the mindset and the business acumen combine.
Yeah.
There are some business coaches who will just say believe, 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 but they they
Mm-hmm.
don't actually have strategy, and they don't have the structure. But in your case, that's why I find the combination fantastic, because you combine the business acumen and also the mindset together. There are others who will teach you all of the strategies and the structure and so on, but if they don't believe that they can generate the results, then it's not going to work either. But
Mm-hmm.
let me just pick up on something that you mentioned earlier. It sort of ignited something in my mind when talking about taking out insights from within your team, without having to bring in consultants and so on. For me, as a psychologist, I used to work as a community researcher, and often you will have traditional methods like interviews, focus group discussions, questionnaires, that kind of stuff. It's just very what's the word, very constricting in terms of getting insights from your team. And when it comes to being creative, I found that the most innovative and creative methods that I use are the most effective. So I use techniques like, for example, photo voice. So we give our participants cameras. Back in the day when we didn't have like digital cameras, and it's showing my age now, phones and so on. We had like disposable cameras, things that you buy for like 2 or 3 pounds,
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
that you have to wind it. And
Yeah.
so we'll give it to our community participants, and they will take photographs of their daily experience. So for example, we were looking into the experiences of South Asian men with diabetes.
Okay.
They will take their cameras with them and take photos of the impact of diabetes in their lives. So instead of just coming to me, I have my questions, you give me the answers, they are actually coming up with ideas that I would never have thought about asking if they didn't bring their experiences in. So these innovative methods, like photo voice, I absolutely love. And methods like the World Cafe, setting up the community center like a cafe where people are relaxed, they mingle. Some of the most creative and inspired, insights will come out when people are relaxed and feel as if they're not just being researched and taking their ideas away. So you are right, when it comes to creativity and innovation, you can bring out the best in your team, but sometimes you also have to be creative and innovative in terms of the method to get
Mhm.
those ideas out. So in your case, when you are working with businesses or with your clients, have you got any specific methods that would trigger, creativity and, spark innovation in a team?
Yes, so I've created my own techniques along the way, and I didn't really realize there were methods until someone said to me, "You should put that together and teach people." You said it rightly. So the first most important thing you need to do is people need to be relaxed. So you need to create an environment. So if you just bring people into your room and say, "Oh, let's try and come up with new ideas," straight away people freeze.
Mm,
You need to understand the people who are in that room, the different personalities. So I would do a lot of work around psychometric testing, a
mm,
lot of work with the team beforehand, so I understand from a scientific point of view each person in the room. So my leadership team, I knew how to get the best out of them. Quite a lot of it is quite informal. So the team think it's informal, but there's a structure behind. I will always bring in non-experts. One of the there's a couple of barriers to innovation. One is the speed that the world is going, and we don't have time to think. So you imagine our mind is just, this, a million miles an
yeah.
hour, information thrown at it. You cannot be innovative. They talk about Edison, Walt Disney, Henry Ford, all those guys practice mindfulness for hours
Mm,
on end, and that's where their best ideas come from. So you need to create the time. I see a lot of business leaders who think, oh, innovation, that's a nice fancy title, and we don't do that here. We just work and work and work.
mm-mm.
Well, they're not going to create good ideas in their team won't. So that's the first thing. You have to have the team relaxed, and then you need to, one of the other barriers, biggest barriers to innovation, is your expertise and the success you've already achieved. So if
Mm,
you're running a company and you're an engineer and you've huge expertise, you can't see any other way to do it, only the expertise that you have. So I always make companies, and we always brought in people who are not expertise at all. So I
right.
brought in people from manufacturing, I brought in people from high end
Bringing in different perspectives.
into the room. And they'll actually,
Yeah.
I want to, at some point, I want to do a project with business leaders and children in the room.
Oh,
Because I think,
wow. Oh, the
I think,
children will all the creative ideas
yeah, they'll come
without
up.
the inhibition, they're
Mm-hmm,
just
yeah,
free to share what they are thinking if
yeah.
they are allowed, because sometimes, children are asked to be quiet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but if you create an environment, like that, that people, so if you bring in outsiders and they're free to say what they want, people who work in a company are always a bit restricted. They're scared of saying something wrong in front of their boss but I purposefully, we would have mixed teams up. And when we go into that room of ideas, everyone is on the exact same level.
Yeah, I
So it's not,
absolutely love that. How do you deal with the power dynamics as well? Because I think that could actually impair or
mm,
interfere with
does.
the dynamics in the room, the boss on this side, and
Mm,
you feel as if you can't actually express what you want to say, or maybe even if the boss is actually all right, you are scared that you will be judged, or you're not in a position to actually share what you have to say. So are there ways around this to encourage everyone to contribute?
yeah, I mean, there is. You have to realize, I genuinely believe everybody has amazing ideas inside of them. But I had to understand that when I bring new people into a room, some people who are in inverted, they see themselves as more junior, they're not going to be as outspoken as the manager. So we have to take it in baby steps and give a few ideas initially. And then I'll understand the ones who are a bit more confident in the room. So I'll ask them questions. But I mean, this, you'll have people who are introverts, you'll have people who are quieter, people who don't have as much confidence, you cannot just throw them straight into, well,
Mm.
just give me an idea. But the minute one of those people, I mean, I always say when an introvert speaks in the room, everyone else needs to be quiet,
Yeah.
because they have something, 9 times out of 10, my experience, they have something amazing to say. And when they say it, or so when I would have had people who I knew were less confident or younger, and they come up with an idea, I said to the managers beforehand, when they say something, I said, we need to straight away recognize their contribution. So, that
That to
reinforcement.
encourage, yes, yes,
Yeah,
to
what I would also do
reinforce
is
it.
I would come up with crazy ideas that would never work. Well, they might work, but just things off the wall to make everybody understand that this is, the
A
process
safe,
of creating
open
ideas.
space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, implementing them obviously is very different, and you have to filter what's going to be feasible at a certain time. But that idea generation and creative thinking, there should be no limits or barriers to what you do in that room.
Wow, that's fantastic. And I have to say, Cara, when it comes to introverts, I even if I go on Facebook Lives and people might think, "Oh, really? You're an introvert?" Well, actually, I am. If you put me in a meeting, I wouldn't speak for a whole hour, and at the end of the meeting, I'll have something to say, and that's the only time you'll hear me speak. But for me, and some of the methods that I've used in as a community psychologist with the World Cafe, one of the ways to encourage the introverts to contribute is we have tablecloths in the room, and we have walls around the room. They could put post-it notes. There are like themed areas on the wall. So if they have something to share about that particular thing, they can just leave it there. And during the meeting, they can move from one table to another. So
Wow.
we have like flowers and bees. We allocate flowers and bees in the room. So if you are a flower, you stay in the chair, and if you are a bee, you can move anywhere you like. So there's like cross pollination of
Mhm.
ideas in the room, and the tables have tablecloths. And for the introverts who aren't really feeling so comfortable speaking, in the group, they can write in the tablecloths. and
Mhm.
and what happens is it's a really good way to capture the insights as well, because it's already written there. They can doodle, they can just be as creative as they like, because sometimes for me as well, English not being my first language, that's probably why I clam up sometimes in meetings, because I feel, oh, maybe my English is not so great, I couldn't express myself, but I can doodle. I can doodle and map out my ideas in a tablecloth. And when we do that in community meetings, we actually do get overwhelmed with the amount of data, we call it the amount of data that we get, because people are just so relaxed, and they just love the idea of them being flowers and bees. It's
Mhm.
just thinking that they are flowers and bees, and they cross pollinate ideas. It's a really great way to calm people down and gamify the conversation as well, to
Of course.
stimulate the creativity. But I have to ask, Cara, when it comes to mindset, what are the common blocks that you've noticed in your work that prevents people from exercising creativity and innovation in their business?
The first one is people think, well, I'm not creative. That's for all those arty creative types over there in the corner. That's another thing actually I would like to do is a project combining creative people with business people, because I think there's lots to be learned across the board.
Mm.
So that's the first one. I'm not creative. Second one is people think innovation and creativity is like, oh, I have to create Facebook, or I have, for me, creative thinking is constantly looking at new ways of doing things and constantly improving your business incrementally. So the best ideas are the simplest ones.
Mm.
So it's not this big, massive, we're going to, okay, the lifestyle care home was a very disruptive
Oh yeah,
innovation.
that's quite. I love I love
Incredible.
that idea. How did you come up? Did you just wake up one day and think it's like, "Ooh, yeah, that's good," or
I
was it gradual over time, and
I
you develop
probably
it?
well look, I suppose the big problem in care homes is people don't want to go to a care home because they don't want to get old and sick.
Yeah.
I couldn't fix the second problem, and I thought, okay, why do people not want to go to care homes? And the perception, whether we like it or not, and this is not the right perception, but the public's perception because of the media is that they're horrible places and you just go there to die and you just sit in the chair all
Stigmatized,
day.
yes.
And I thought, well, how do I create somewhere that is the opposite of that? So
Mm.
everything we looked at that people were scared of, we just thought about on the team, how do we do something completely opposite. So like we would have school children in the home every day. We have choirs, we have
Oh my
French
God.
classes,
That's
yoga,
wonderful.
so everything. And that's where it started. And the whole, the ethos and purpose for it was, I believe that elderly people deserve to have an amazing life when they're older. The
I
same as
think
we have when
for
we're
me, my what I'm taking away from what you're saying is you have this drive, you have this sense of purpose. You've identified problems, and it's not just the superficial problems. You can see that actually older people actually do deserve better. But
mm,
what are the problems? And instead of just burying the problems in the sand and just ignoring the problems, you're actually facing them head on and looking at where is this problem coming from. You're looking at it from different perspectives and finding ways to solve it. So rather than brushing away and ignoring the problems, some people might be scared of looking at the problems, or they feel as if they're going to open a can of worms. But in your case, you're actually brave enough to look in there, identify the problems, and find solutions to it. And I think
mm,
that's also, it shows your mindset, that you're not afraid to explore these
mm.
problems and find solutions, find ways around it.
Well, that, I mean, you've led in nicely to the next challenge with innovation. People are scared and they don't have the courage. So if someone says to me, Cara, is this easy? Absolutely not. You need to have the
Mm.
courage. You need to understand that doing things differently, by the very nature of what you're saying, you're going against,
Resistance.
yeah, resistance, challenge. I had hundreds of people who told me it wouldn't work, but
That's
you have to
crazy.
have a deeper purpose, and you have to. But you might think it's more difficult to do initially, which it is. I believe if you don't bed that culture into your business now, and all entrepreneurs don't, it is going to be hugely challenging in the future. It's already hugely challenging for businesses that aren't able to adapt quickly and be
Yeah.
creative and do things differently. So for me, you have a choice. You either jump in quickly and take on the mindset that I need to do this to be sustainable, or you sit back and it's a bit easier and the environment will come the other way. And
Yeah.
that's my belief.
I think that there might also be some entrepreneurs where they force creativity and
Mm,
innovation, that sometimes when it is forced,
mm,
it doesn't work.
no.
And that's why it was important with what you said earlier, that mindfulness is important, just chilling, just relaxing, because that's where the most innovative ideas come from, when you are actually relaxed, and when you force
Mm-hmm.
innovation, and you can only see one aspect and you cannot see anything else. That's where some blocks are coming from. Are there strategies that you can suggest if someone is trying to find ways to solve a problem and they couldn't find an innovative solution? Are there ways around it to help them to unblock, or to make them to free flow more? Or I don't know, have you got any
I think
techniques that you can
yeah, I
share?
think, well, I'll answer two parts of that question because I think it's useful. The first part is, I think the biggest challenge, I say every strength has a dark side. Entrepreneurs' biggest strength is the pace they go at and the speed and the amount they want to achieve. That is their biggest downside. Um, and when you have a problem like that, your mind is going a million miles an hour. I mean, you'll know this better than me in terms of psychology. You need to take a break. That's where I suffer.
Mm,
Entrepreneurs,
mm,
you just need to take time out, go out for a walk, forget about it, do something else. You cannot, when you're in that busy, busy, busy 100 miles an hour in your mind, you will not come up with the best ideas. Your mind and your brain is under pressure. So that's the first thing. The second thing, and I mean, I'm very passionate about innovation and creativity, but that's not just about coming up with good ideas. It's about coming up and implementing ideas that are going to improve the business. Now, that's
yeah.
the hard part. And again, entrepreneurs need to be very careful. We're shiny toy people. We love the next big thing.
Yes.
Where, something, we don't like finishing stuff. We're on to the next thing. Your team they have to implement this. So I see quite a lot of entrepreneurs try to do far too many things at once.
Mm,
You get all the good ideas, and then you need to build a team around
To
you, to put
implement
structure and
and to
process
actually
and
have
implement it.
that focus to follow through.
Yeah.
And I think this is very much aligned with what we teach here in the PAMI Code Facebook community. PAMI actually means let's go together in Greek, which
Oh,
means, yeah,
lovely.
in this life we can go together, we have a problem, let's go together. But PAMI also stands for purpose, action, momentum, and energy. And when you have a deep sense of purpose, that's going to power you through. It's going to anchor you when things get difficult. You know your why, you know what why you're doing. But at the same time, you need to couple this with action, because if you're all about purpose, and if you're all about all these ideas without actually implementing and powering through, you really need to have action to see something change, to see something for real. Maintaining the momentum, and the E part is the energy. And I think for so many entrepreneurs, as you know, they get burned out because, as
Mm-hmm.
you know, they just don't stop. Their mind just keeps firing away, doing things all the time, stretching their hours, and
Yeah.
forgetting that they are only human and they're bound to get burned out if they don't watch their energy. So what do you suggest in terms of taking time off? So do you have routines for entrepreneurs to help them monitor this, or do you
Mm-hmm.
just keep note of what's going on in your body? How do you manage this?
Yes, I mean, the advice I can give anyone. So anytime people say to me, you need to slow down, Car, I mean, you say that to an entrepreneur, it drives them crazy. They just
Mm.
think you people don't understand me. And of course, then you do burn out. I burned out 3 times badly in my life, really badly. So I use the analogy now with entrepreneurs, you're a Formula One car. And unless
Mm.
you come into the pit lane and refuel and fix the tires and the engine, you will
Yeah.
burn out. And that has resonated better in my experience with entrepreneurs because they can see the drive, they can see the competitiveness, and they understand that rather than, oh, just slow down and stop.
Yes.
Everybody has the pit lane for everybody is very different. Me personally, and my advice is it's really old fashioned. You need to sleep well, you need to eat
Mm.
well, you need to exercise, you need to seriously look after your mental health as well. Whether it's meditation, mindfulness, whatever works, going out for a walk. Um, that's what I do. And travel for me is what helps me switch off completely. But
Yeah,
I
you take
know,
yourself out of that of the context, and you
yes,
it's not there, so you're somewhere else,
yeah,
and yeah,
yeah.
you switch
And
off.
yeah, and I've great friends, and I live in Northern Ireland, so we've great fresh air and scenery. But I'll figure out with the entrepreneur themselves. I'll ask them questions
What
so
works
they
for them?
understand what is the pit lane, and then it's we all understand what we need in the pit lane. We have to be careful because we don't go into it enough.
Yeah,
So I'll just
I love that analogy, and I think, yeah, I'm gonna think of it in that way. It's like you're like a Formula One race car that you actually do have to have, but whatever that means for you. For me, it means I actually do meditate every day. Now that I used to work in academia and I was a university lecturer, but when I became an entrepreneur, I have more freedom and control over my time. I wake
yeah,
up early in the morning now, but I take naps. In the afternoon, I have like 2 hour naps in the afternoon from 2 to 4. I just hug my son, and we
yeah,
sleep in the afternoon. And I just absolutely love when I wake up in the afternoon. I just feel refreshed. It's almost like part two of the day.
mm-hmm.
It's so for me, that's sort of my pit stop. I have like a quiet time in the afternoon just to recharge, and I keep
Brilliant.
going for the next couple of hours until it's
Yeah,
bedtime
yeah,
again.
yeah, brilliant. No,
Yes.
everyone has their own, and we're all very different. So
Yeah, and how some people will have the spa days, or going
mm-hmm.
on holidays and so on. But for me, yeah, just sleeping actually works, or going out for a walk, having fresh air. It certainly helps, or even just turning on a fun music, and just singing
Yeah,
and dancing to
mm-hmm.
music. It's whatever works. But you
Mm-hmm.
are right. It's really important to watch our energy as well. You might be the most um uh innovative, creative person, full of drive and so on. But yeah, there is a risk of burnout if you actually don't watch your energy as
And
well.
why? I mean, as I told you, 3 times in my late 20s, early 30s, badly, I was 6 months in bed where I could not get out of bed.
Oh my goodness.
I was just, and for someone with the energy I have, that was a big realization for me. It's you need to look after it.
I'm guessing that's actually quite common in high achievers, and it
Mm.
happens in the 20s and 30s, and eventually, hopefully, they learn.
Yes,
Hopefully, they
yes,
learn. Some don't learn, or it has to happen 3 or 4 or 5 times until they
yes,
learn. But yeah, it happens sometimes just to teach you a lesson, really, to
yes,
slow down. Your energy is not infinite, so you actually do need to replenish as well.
yeah. And then
So that was a fantastic conversation. I absolutely love this conversation. Mindset, creativity, innovation. There's so much business stuff that we talked about, and adding in the psychology as well. It's absolutely amazing. So, Kara, if there's anything that you would like to share with our audience, just parting words to them, what do you have to say to anyone who's listening to this conversation?
I would just say that everybody is creative, and a powerful mindset and courageous action is something that everybody can learn, and so is creativity. And I develop myself every day in these things, and it's something that I just love working with other people to help them and grow their business and themselves. So thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure.
Wonderful. Well, Kara, if people wanted to connect with you and
Mhm.
perhaps work with you, where can they find you?
So the easiest thing at the minute, I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook, but I'm just redesigning my website. So they can email me on hello@caramacklin.com, and I'll respond directly. I would, even if it's just a question, it's not even to work with me, even if they just wanted to ask my advice on something, no problem, just get in touch.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Kara. And thanks everyone for tuning in. I hope that you found this conversation helpful. I mean, in this day and age where we actually do have to think of ways to solve problems, to be creative, to be innovative. Sometimes, yeah, we do have mindset blocks thinking that we're not creative, or maybe we're filtering our ideas, thinking that our ideas are not good enough. Feel free to explore those ideas. Feel free to unblock those mindset and limiting beliefs that you have. And if you actually do need some support, reach out to Kara. I'm sure she'll be able to support you. But I do hope that you found this conversation helpful and help you to become more creative and innovative in this day and age. So thanks again, Kara. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll catch up again next time for another purposeful conversations with me, Emmy, here in the Pami Code Facebook group. Until then, take care and bye for now. Bye.
Bye.